Hello everybody, it's Lazel here with another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech. Today I'm talking about Ojer Axonil, Deepest Might. He's a 4 mana 4/4 god with trample, which says, if a red source you control would deal an amount of non-combat damage less than Ojer Axonil's power to an opponent, that source deals damage equal to Ojer Axonil's power instead. When Ojer Axonil dies, return to the battlefield tapped and transformed under its owner's control. Transformed, he turns into a land which is called Temple of Power. You can tap it to add 1 red mana, and for 3 mana tap it, transform Temple of Power, activate only if red sources you control dealt 4 or more non-combat damage this turn and only as a sorcery. Ojer is an absolute beast and has a huge impact either if we are playing him as our commander or in our 99. We are going to win the game by playing cheap spells which deal small amounts of damage to our opponents, and we'll turn that damage into huge amounts because we will also pump up Ojer. We want to play cards like Roiling Vortex, a 2 mana enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Roiling Vortex deals 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, Roiling Vortex deals 5 damage to that player. And for 1 red mana, your opponents can't gain life this turn. One of those cheap instant sorcery spells will be End the Festivities, 1 mana sorcery. End the Festivities deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. If we have Ojer on the field, we will simply deal 4 damage to each of our opponents. Kumano faces Carcassonne, a 1 mana saga, which on the first chapter deals 1 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control. On the second chapter, when you cast your next creature spell this turn, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter. And in the third chapter, we can flip it to get a 2/2 out of it. We will also be playing a lot of cheap pink creatures, so Impact Tremors is also really helpful in this deck. 2 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Goblin Chain Whirler is one of the better creatures in this deck, as it is a 3 mana 3/3 with first strike, and when Goblin Chain Whirler enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. Fiery Confluence is also one of those sorceries that you want to play in this deck. A 4 mana sorcery which says choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. First mode, Fiery Confluence deals 1 damage to each creature. Second mode, Fiery Confluence deals 2 damage to each opponent. And the third mode says destroy target artifact. Let's talk about our cheap pink creatures. Kasich Flamebreather, a 2 mana 1/3, and when you cast a non-creature spell, he deals 1 damage to each opponent. Gibbering Fiend, a 2 mana 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and it also has Delirium. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, Gibbering Fiend deals 1 damage to that player. Thermal Alchemist, a 2 mana 0/3 with Defender. Tap him to Thermal Alchemist deals 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, untap him. Erebor Flamesmith, a 2 mana 2/1. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, he deals 1 damage to each opponent. Blister Spit Gremlin, a 1 mana 1/1. You can pay 1 mana and tap him, so he deals 1 damage to each opponent. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, untap him. Firebrand Archer, 2 mana 2/1. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Firebrand Archer deals 1 damage to each opponent. But we don't want to deal 4 damage with Ojer, we want to deal way more, so we pump him up with spells like Brute Force, a 1 mana instant, target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Blazing Crescendo, 2 mana instant, target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn. Exile the top card of your library, until the end of your next turn you may play that card. So we also get a little bit of card advantage while we burn down our opponents. Downhill Charge, a 3 mana instant. You may sacrifice a mountain rather than pay Downhill Charge as mana cost. Target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of mountains you control. Just imagine this spell in the late game with one of your pingers or your burn spells. Blazing Shoal, a 2 mana and X. You may remove a red card with converted mana cost X in your hand from the game rather than pay Blazing Shoal's mana cost. Target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn. Fists of the Anvil, 2 mana instant. Target creature gets +4/+0 until end of turn. And also Bloodlust, a 2 mana instant. Target creature gets +4/-4 until end of turn. If this reduces that creature's toughness to less than 1, the creature's toughness is 1. Let's abuse some more ETB effects. For example, Spitfire Largok, a 4 mana 3/4 with Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, Spitfire Largok deals 1 damage to each opponent. Witty Roastmaster, 3 mana 3/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Witty Roastmaster deals 1 damage to each opponent. And Tunneling Geopede, a 3 mana 3/2 with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, Tunneling Geopede deals 1 damage to each opponent. You want to win more? You get it. Sheevan Gorge, a legendary land. You can tap it to add 1 colorless, and for 3 mana and tap it, Sheevan Gorge deals 1 damage to each opponent. I have added this land here in my win more list simply because it is a land. Lands are really hard to interact with, and this is constant damage with Ojer on the field. Chandra, Awakened Inferno, 6 mana 6 loyalty, this spell can't be countered. Her +2 is what we want to go for. Each opponent gets an emblem with, at the beginning of your upkeep, this emblem deals 1 damage to you. Her -3, Chandra, Awakened Inferno deals 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. Her -X, Chandra, Awakened Inferno deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker. If a permanent dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. And another card that's really hard to interact with is Perforos, God of the Forge. 4 mana 6/5 indestructible. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Perforos isn't a creature. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. And especially his activated ability, which is often overlooked on him, gets really helpful in this deck, because for 3 mana, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed these few ideas of mine that I will play in Ojer Axonil. Let me know down in the comments below which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.